Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of OHKO, a Pokemon VGC podcast. Baltimore and the next season of Pokemon is just around the corner. It is always exciting to head into a new season, everything that's going to be happening. My name is Sierra. Joe Brown is on a cruise, so we've replaced him for this week with another Joe. We got Joseph Ugarte here, as well as Brady Smith. And Brady's got a friend over there as well. Brady, what's the pupper's name?
His name is Callum.
Callum.
He's a really
Hello?
good boy. He's a collie.
Hello, Callum. The most important voice that we'll have here on the podcast today, that is for sure. And Joseph, I know you got to host the one week where me and Joe Brown couldn't make it, but now you get to be a guest on the podcast instead of the host. How's it going?
Pretty good, I'd have to say. Got Baltimore in a day. So, well, I guess in 2 days, but I'll be going there tomorrow. So it'll be fun.
It'll
How you feeling for the tournament? How you feeling?
I feel great, honestly. I feel pretty good. I'm ready. I didn't invest as much into prep as Worlds because after you kind of do the whole Worlds grind thing, you can't really
yeah, bro. You
sit there
you
for
just
as long.
like, oh wait, I can actually chill. I don't have to grind for like
yeah. Like you grind, but like you're not like doing the same level of stuff. So
well, then follow up. Do you feel ready?
Yeah. Actually,
Okay.
I do. I feel like I found something pretty good. So we'll see. A bit of a throwback, but yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Well, then we'll get the conversation of our status for Baltimore. So you're competing. That'll be good. I am not going. I'm going to be staying home this weekend. I might watch party. I'm not 100% positive. We'll see. We'll see. I'll think about it. And then Brady, you're not going. You said earlier. What is going to be your first event this season? If you already know.
Good question. Okay, so I'm kind of torn between LAIC. And I don't even know whenever Florida is, but I just kind of been taking like a little bit of like I haven't been focused as much on like my actual like tournaments, because like I've been like more focused on just kind of like falling in love with the game, and also like coaching other people because I do coaching. That spends like a lot of my time, so I'm not really like focused on like my season at the moment. But I still, I'm gonna go to tournaments. I don't really know, but I'll figure out one. I'll go, like, I'll go hard. But I don't know. Who knows? It's like could be tomorrow, could be next year. I don't know.
We got a whole season of tournaments ahead of us. So even if you're not missing out on Baltimore, you get to kind of scope out what's going down and everything. But it's always fun hopping into a new season. I know for the broadcast myself, you're on one of the broadcasts earlier than the season, and they show like the little roadmap, and you're like, wow, we have all of these events to go to. I don't know. It just feels like super, super exciting. I love the idea of a fresh season, being able to just kind of have the championship points wiped, kind of start and just go from there. This season, of course, had some really big changes going into it when we look at the invite structure. So before we really got into Baltimore, I kind of wanted to talk about the season as a whole and as two like full-time professional players, how you guys are kind of thinking this might change up the circuit, or if it's kind of something that obviously was a big shock news-wise, but ultimately maybe is not necessarily going to matter. Like if we'll even see an impact of it at Baltimore.
Well, I think in general, like the new changes, I mean, obviously, if you're someone who was kind of just trying to hit the bar of 500, right? Or 400, whatever it was at the time, right? You kind of were in a situation where like you could go to a bunch of locals to kind of just fill in that invite, right? And your major performances mattered, but you could pretty much like farm an invite off of locals if you were like really consistent or like winning a lot of them. I don't think it's really the case anymore. Like locals will definitely help because they still give you like an extra couple of points, but there's a lot more importance placed on majors, I think. And on top of that too, I think it's a change, to be honest, that's better for top players, but a little bit worse for what's it called, players who were like casually trying to get their invite. Because as a top player, right, like for me, I look at it, I'm like, oh great, I don't have to go to like every event anymore. Because like before, right, it used to be like 6 regional BFLs, all 4 ICs or 3 ICs, I guess in this case, and then you'd have like 2 global challenges, right? Now basically you have a whole duration of like what, like, I mean, if you're considering Europe as well, like you have like 16, 17 regionals to choose from combined, and then like on top of that, like I'm just guessing a number, obviously, like it could be more, it could be less, but basically like you have like around like 16, 17 regionals. You get flexibility between, not counting like South America if you want to go to one of those from the US. You basically, like, your 3 internationals will fill out 3 of your BFLs unless you do like kind of bad at it. So it actually really makes it a bit easier, I think, as a top player to like kind of get that like high placing invite without having to like go to everything. And I think that's a bit of a relieving feeling, like kind of feeling like I can miss a few regionals is definitely a nice feeling, because last year I know I was feeling pretty burnt out around the end of regulation F because I had to go to like everything. And like there was just a point where I was like, even if it's putting me at a disadvantage, like I just can't force myself to go because I just like hate it so much. But now I think having the flexibility to kind of pick and choose where I want to play is like nice.
You feel like there's a flexibility though, because like, so for yourself, obviously you were like one of the top on the championship point leaderboards, but then Brady for yourself for last year, because now for NA we're looking at top 75 for anyone who wasn't quite aware of the changes going into this. And Brady, last year on the leaderboard you were in 69th place, so six people above you, and all of a sudden you would have been knocked out of a world championship spot. So we're talking about like, hey, like maybe this you can miss event relieving, but I kind of feel like if there's that constant pressure to constantly be at this point threshold, that it would maybe then add some stress in some sort of way, or
So, okay, that's actually kind of interesting. I kind of have a different view set in this, and I kind of align a bit more with like how Joe kind of sees this. Like, basically, like, if I knew I was 69th, it's like I qualified. There were like 6 people below me that would have made it, and the cutoff was at 75. I would have been going to tournaments. Like, I kind of stopped like right after I qualified because I did the bare minimum. I was just like, okay, I made the goal, which was 500. And now it's kind of like, okay, I don't have to do anything, which in one way that is kind of relaxing, because it's like once you kind of like reach it, it's like you don't really have to do anything. But if you like, have to always compete for the top 75, actually now I'm kind of talking about this aloud, like I totally see like how it can be a little bit more like stressing. Yeah, actually, Joe, now that I'm kind of like talking about this, I like low key kind of like disagree. Actually, like it's like not. It's like if you just qualify, like if you do like the bare minimum, it's like there's 2 ways to approach a season previously, which is like either you do the bare minimum, qualify, and that's efficient, you made worlds, or you go for top 8. And if you don't get top 8, there's like a bunch of like wasted value where it's like you got 9, you kind of got like just destroyed by the system. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just like you don't get anything. Like you just get like left behind. But it's just like. It's like you qualified, you did the bare minimum, but there's no really kind of room for reward there. But now if you have to keep up like the top 75, the way like the one thing which is kind of cool is that it seems, to my understanding, that it focuses more on quality of results and less on quantity, which is very nice, because that allows you to go to less events and just do really good at those few events you go to. And basically come out stronger than you would have if you like won like got second at a regional or something, or won a regional, and then it's like people just passed you because they just grinded locals. It would feel kind of bad if that was the case, but that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, that's a interesting perspective. I mean, I guess to like my view of it comes from the fact of like I always had the pressure of being in top 8 every year because I always wanted like that day 2 or like the round 1 buy or whatever. And now kind of all that pressure is kind of gone. I mean, like didn't they get rid of the advantage anyways this year? Like there's no more like buy anymore.
Unless like anything gets announced at a later date, which I feel like they wouldn't announce something after the circuit starts, or at least like the first regional starts. But yeah, there's no buy and there's no advantage for being a top placing player at this point.
Yeah, because I was gonna say
other than like stipends and travel awards.
I mean, I used to be in a position where like I had to go to everything to make sure I was in top 8 to like get the travel award, like get the day 2. Like I remember in NAIC 23 when I got top 4, I was sitting there and every time I was clicking sleep powder, like my heart was in my throat because I'm like, oh man, if I miss this, like I lose my travel award to Worlds, right? And I mean, like I chose to use sleep powder, obviously, but like it's like absurd, like the pressure, you know what I mean? Like I was at 3-2 and I remember I was like, yeah, unless like I cut, like I'm not even like safe, you know what I mean? And then after that I won like I think like 12 rounds in a row until I lost in top 4, but it was like, bro, like that was like so much stress. And like I think I might have done even better without the stress, because like I remember by the end of like the NAIC like top, like by the time I hit top 4, I was just like so tired because I just put so much effort into every game. Like I would just like kind of like tired myself out, and then I played kind of bad.
People used to make careers off clicking like Precipice Blades, like just literally just, like they would like 2016, 20. Yeah, you okay? So did I. I was a Zerndon player for days, but it was just like you just sit there and you're like, okay, as long as I can afford to miss like 3 of these guys. If I miss 3, I lose. But it's like, you know, it's you just start throwing them out. It's okay. Like, majority of them connect. You're like, you kind of got with it. Also, like, Groudon was so bulky, you could just spam it. It was like so easy to just spam. Like,
I mean,
oh,
yeah, it's just
those were the days,
like,
man. The golden days.
yeah, I mean, me and Brady got to talk and play a lot in the golden days
Oh,
of
yeah.
70-person regionals,
Oh
36-man
my goodness, those
Daytona,
were
you know.
crazy.
But yeah,
I'm the
no,
champ,
I
by the
think,
way. Played this man in finals. Joe in
yeah,
finals.
you know, well, like I say, I lost my Tapu Koko. That's all
Of
right,
course.
pal.
Oh yeah, Tapu
But
Koko would have helped you into Zerndon. I got you. Yeah.
but yeah,
Of
no.
course, of
In
course.
general, but yeah, I would say, in my opinion, the pressure's less, and from my position at least, just because I feel like I have to put a little bit less time into going to everything. And like if I have like one bad event, like it doesn't like screw me over because like I need to fill out a BFL of 6. Like I have a very like easy BFL to fill. If I go to like 10 events, right? I go to 3 internationals and like I go to 7 regionals, right? Which is like, I mean, that's still a lot, but like, you know, it's a little bit less than like the max, right? Then I'm giving myself breaks in between. And realistically, out of all those regionals I went to, I only have to do well in 3, and I have to do well enough in the internationals where I get like a decent amount of points. And then I'm probably pretty safe, right?
When you're talking about like doing well enough though, like what are you kind of looking at for that threshold? And like I'm kind of curious with the best finish limit and like the regionals for the season and like being able to still have full ICs. Like what we're kind of looking at for a regional for like a good performance. Is that kind of change at all with the fact that we're not going to a top 75 system, that we have changed BFLs a little, or like what would you consider it for to actually be worth it?
Well, so I'm gonna say it this way, I guess. So like, for example, you know how you're like, oh, Brady, you were like 60, 69, right? And you were like right like 6 away from the bottom. A lot of players relied on locals to be within that top like 70. So I think without locals, if you just took Brady's major performances compared to some other players who relied more on their locals, like realistically, the top players or top performers would have like less to stress about, I think.
That's
so
true.
because like in the end, like if you look at the like median average of Pokemon player, right? Like they're probably going to be doing like top 32s, right? So even if you can get like a couple of top 8s, a couple of top 4s, whatever, right? And you like cut an international or whatever, you're probably way ahead of like most top players. You would or like most players in general actually that you would probably need to beat to like be in that top 75 in my opinion. So I'd probably say the CP bar probably hits like, if I had to guess, my guess for the where the bar ends up because of all the grand challenges and how good they are, I'd probably put it at like, I think like 1,000 will be like the top people, maybe 1,000 like 100 for the top. I think the floor will be like 700, maybe 700, maybe.
I kind of got a lower projection. I was thinking like 6 to 7. Like 7's like, I feel like 7's a very safe range. I think it could go as low as 6. Like it kind of depends because it's like locals kind of got axed. Remember, it's like PCs are no longer like 30 championship points. They're now like 15, and it's like you can't like stack them as much. So I don't know. I feel like that could like cut into the overall pool. I think like 600 could maybe pull it, but I could see 700. I wouldn't be too surprised. That seems like a really reasonable projection.
Yeah, it's just because of global challenges. Honestly, I wouldn't guess 700 if the global challenges weren't so buff. Like you like before, like I mean, Brady, you remember the days where like you used to get like top 64 in the global challenge, you get like 50 CP.
Yeah.
But like now it's like you get, because I have it pulled up in front of me, right? You get top 64, you get 80 championship points.
Oh, that's actually kind of nuts.
And like, and if you get like even like top 16, it's 130. That's like a lot.
Really?
You know?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So.
I mean,
but how much
like
is first
talking about that 600 bar as well, though. I mean, because there ended up being 92 people at 600 points for the season, and I mean, like you said, Brady, that like you got your invite, so you kind of just stopped. And I'm kind of curious then, like how many people are also on the list, because like going through the list, like there is definitely quite a few people here that I'm like, wow, yeah, they're good at the game. Yeah, I also didn't really get to see them much last year because they got their invite and kind of dipped, right? So like I think we'll definitely be more than 600 unless like people are kind of burnt out. But considering how fast like Baltimore sold out, like I kind of don't think so. And like people already have like 200 championship points for the season off locals.
Yeah,
that's true.
I do think you know, it's a really nice thing you could do is just like win a regional and then you're chilling.
Top 4 in IC and you're good.
Oh, yeah.
That is the most efficient path.
Yeah, that's even better.
Like genuinely, like I want like an actual talking point, like for like people who are like really like good or like think they can be good. like that is the most efficient path. It's like literally just winning one regional. If you just go to like, if you like handful select like 3 regionals for a season and you just go hard on those 3 events, like, it's like you don't have to travel, like be a sucker, like spend all this money going to like ICs, millions of events. You can just like win that one and just like get out. Like that's the smartest way, but it's hard. It's really, really hard. That's not easy to do, but if you think you can, that's the most efficient way like possible to qualify for Worlds.
What do you think's easier, winning a regional or top 4 in an IC?
Oh, like winning a regional is easier than top 4 in IC, 100%. Well, actually, because there's a new structure now, right? So, okay, so the thing is
Depends on the regional.
I would have said, I would always say international top 4 is harder because the quality of players in the venue are higher. So on an average, you're more likely to hit in day 2 like harder opponents and at the high tables, right?
I will say, by the way, it does kind of depend on region, like genuinely, like
yeah, that's true.
That's true. Dude, like for example, like EUIC and like I'd say NAIC. I think EUIC is probably the hardest, dude. Like I gotta find my footing at EUIC. Like it's like that's a really hard one. Like top 4 UIC is definitely stronger than like a regional win, but like it's like back in the day, like, I got top 8 OCIC back in 2019, and like honestly, like it's like. Don't get me wrong. It was like I felt very happy with it. I got a little bit lucky on resistance and everything. I was able to win out with like a record, but at the end of the day, it's like I was kind of it's like I felt I didn't really feel like as legitimate. But maybe that's just because myself, it's because like it's like maybe because I did it. I'm like, oh, I could have done better. Who knows? But it's just like I don't know. I'd say like it depends on the regional. Like some regionals are hard, dude.
Let's say our biggest. Let's say like an Orlando-sized regional from last season in comparison to NAIC.
Ooh, I would still probably take an NAIC top 4 if like, because NAIC and EYC are really hard. So like, I guess it depends on like what you equate it to. But the thing is like, okay, so the average player I'll play in Orlando when there's a 700 player Orlando regional or like 900, like whatever the number is, right? Like won't be as good as like the average player that came over from across the pond to play in like an international,
True.
So like the fact that it's international like means it's going to be like higher quality when it comes to like EUIC and NAIC for sure. Because like
that's facts.
Europe and North America, I think across the gap have like just like decent players, like really strong.
There's
players.
also like the player morale thing where like some players might like genuinely like go really hard at like an internats and kind of just play a regional more safe. It's like if they already qualified, if they know they're going to qualify because they're like above 75 by a good margin, they could just go crazy at NAIC and just go like off the wall. Just if they're going to try to win, just go with something like insane and like. So I get it. Yeah, it's like that seems like I'd say ICs are probably harder. Yeah.
Yeah. Even just the effort that goes into them is higher on average, right? So
makes a lot of sense. Then I want to. Because this is a Baltimore preview. Obviously, talking about all of these changes is definitely important because this is going to be a really big thing kind of going into the season. And I'm already not excited for NAIC with how many invites are going to be contingent on performances and even just other people's performances there. It's going to be absolutely heartbreaking, but that is a way later in the season thing. But talking about Baltimore kind of, and just kind of the impact that each one of these regionals is going to be having, because this is going to be the first way for people to get major amount of points that isn't just these locals and stuff too. And we got to see from last season, people who did start to perform well could kind of snowball from there, right? So I'm kind of curious.
Like Riley's season, you mean? Like where he kind of snowballed from
literally,
Pittsburgh? Yeah.
Like, yeah, he had the invite already and it was just like, oh, okay, let me just get another casual like 1,000 points. No big deal.
I mean, I think what Baltimore really offers a lot of players is the opportunity to kind of gain confidence in the new format, right? So I think like always what is interesting about the first regional about any format is usually online results matter, but like something I've learned now from like multiple times playing like online grassroots tournaments and then playing the regionals, like the stuff people bring to the regional is like the more refined polished stuff of like the stuff that maybe you'll like test drive against on Limitless, So like what I mean by that is like at that point, like the teams people bring the regionals are a bit more serious and people are taking it more seriously. And I think there's like different levels of pressure associated when you're playing in person versus when you're playing online, which I think impacts stuff as well. But also too, like there is a noticeable like shift in the metagame once the first regional happens, because usually it's a event where someone finds something that's really strong, or it like takes some predetermined stuff that people already assumed was strong and finds like a better version of it, and then people keep innovating on that. So I think it kind of like, instead of like being like the end all be all of the format, it does kind of give a like it almost like paves the course for like where the rest of the format goes, right? So if like Arch Rain wins, right, then like the format's going to start building around, okay, like how do you keep refining this team to make it better, or how do you like beat that team consistently, right? Or Dondozo wins, like of course like Dozo's not a team where it can always win. People might just put more checks on their team, and then it'll kind of fade out, and then it'll come back in for like the international again. Like that's just kind of like the routes that you'll see happen. It kind of just depends on what wins, I think.
Yeah, I kind of feel like the thing about like first events, like the first regional of like the season or like a series, is that it's like kind of like what you said, Joe, is where it like kind of paves like the rest of the way for how the meta kind of develops and like kind of pans out. But also like there's so much opportunity right now. It's like now's the time to like build something kind of like crazy that like no one has a matchup into. It's like as the format becomes more like developed, people will theoretically start to kind of figure it out, and then there's a common team or a common group of Pokemon that do really well, and then pretty much all the sauce kind of just like dries out, because it's like everyone knows what everything does. But like right now there's like a lot of opportunity for someone to come up with like a really, really out of the box team and snag a quick win for the sole reason that no one had a single matchup into it. So yeah, that's like there's opportunity there that you can cheese a win if maybe you're not the company you're playing, but you just want to win with your team. The new formats are the times to do that. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to keep my eye out for, just for like those shifts in teams, but also like for big trends, like kind of what you were talking about, Joe, with Archaludon Rain. Like if that wins, like then it's just kind of time to start honing up Archaludon Rain. It's like, okay, I'm just gonna get really good with this, like understand how it works and become one of the best with it. Yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah.
I mean, now that we're literally just out of Baltimore, like I know that me and Joe have gotten to talk about the format and thoughts about it. I'm sure, like Brady, I'm sure you and Joe have talked about it and stuff. I kind of want to know where we are at with Reg H, just kind of general headed into this event, because I know right at this moment what we have to go off of is these grassroots tournaments. Some things kind of are funky. Like, how do we think of this as a competitive format that we're going to be playing for the next 4 months? Like, when we saw Reg A and kind of like less powerful Pokemon, we're also new to like Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. We didn't know what half of them did anyways, and then we never got a chance to really kind of do anything about it. Whereas now we kind of know the Pokemon, even if we didn't get to play with them at this power level.
Yeah, no, that's actually like what I really like about it is that like we just said, we during Reg A, we didn't really have a lot of opportunity to really like expand upon the format and learn everything. It just kind of felt like they were just throwing regulations at us. Like Reg A, we had one event, then Reg B came around, then soon enough Reg C. It was just so quick, But what I will say is that going back to Reg A, I feel like there's a lot of tools that people may have overlooked or stuff that got power crept. Like for example, like Golden Go. I know that guy is here to stay. Like I'm sure there's gonna be some kind of like balance team that comes around with Golden Go. I've seen a lot of Life Orb, Timid, Max Speed, Max Special Attack. That stuff's like pretty good. That's like the standard one right now, and that's the most anti-Goldengo you can go. So it's really popular. But I feel like maybe with time people will evolve to a more bulky Goldengo, and then potentially, I don't really know. Maybe it's just more of like a setup piece, but it might not, because maybe the power level of the format's a bit too high for it to really do that. It might just be best a Life Orb Sweeper. I genuinely have like no idea, but what I will say is like I feel like the steel types inside this format are like insane. Like there's like Archaludon, there's Goldengo, there's King Gambit. There's so much like sauce to kind of build around. And there's Amoonguss still there, but that's also not really like insane, because there's like a lot of like a random miscellaneous stuff such as King Gambit that just kind of like can run it down, or maybe like potentially like Archaludon if it's positioned properly, or even Goldengo. It's like there's so much, like there's so much going on. There's a lot of moving pieces in this format, and it's like I feel like it'll be hard to find like a centralizing piece, but I feel like maybe Goldengo is going to be the start of that, of figuring out like how to build a balanced team. I think it's going to start with Goldengo, but I have no idea. We're going to see.
I would say, I think my opinion on this format, any format where hard Trick Room size spam is a viable archetype, in my opinion, is one of the worser formats. But
bro, you can just instant Rillaboom that though. You can just instant Rillaboom that.
Not everyone runs instant Rillaboom. Like my point is like, okay, like this, right? Like you know what I mean? Like if I have to actively go out of my way to like answer like a hard Trick Room size spam team, because the meta itself doesn't have enough tools to deal with it automatically. Like I look at it and I'm like,
dude, just play
bro, this is
honest
so
teams,
much
bro. Just play
worse.
honest teams. Just play honest teams. Like, dude, you, like, oh my goodness.
Like I'm just saying, I miss when I could just switch in Miraidon, take away their psychic terrain, and I'm like, checkmate, buddy. You know, like. But it's
Joe,
okay.
what happened to you, bro? I remember whenever you had your Japan Sand days back in 2019, or no, it was 2022, 2021.
Like
dude, you instant Amoonguss people like to death. You won like so many online tournaments with that. It was crazy.
Joe
like,
taught me how to play VGC, and it was instant Amoonguss, and you swap out and you fake out.
I
and
can't believe you thought it was instant Amoonguss. That's wild.
And then like it's like these slow, grindy positioning games. That's how I learned VGC.
Yeah. Oh, and then and look, I'm just saying, like after you know, it's like after you what's it called, get tempted by like the apple or whatever. It's like I started playing like Sleep Powder, you know, I started playing like Sun, you know. Right. It all started in 2019 when I used Venudon for the first time, and after that, you know, my life was never the same. So,
dude, no, I get it though. I get it. Yeah. I get it. I locked in a Magma Storm Heatran at a regional, and I was gambling, bro. I literally feel like I was playing slots. I was just like, oh, do I roll 75? Yes. Like, it's just like if I didn't, I was like, well, all right, cool. Like, all right, well, get you next time. You know?
I mean, I think okay. So to give my reel on the meta, because obviously I was, you know, saying like I don't think it's as good, but I think it's still like not the worst format. I just think that the main problem, this is the beginning of every format's issue, is some stuff seems or feels very oppressive because people haven't really found like the right answers to it. So like, you know, at the start of like Urshifu coming back into the game and like Regulation D, you know, people were like, oh my god, Urshifu is so oppressive, like how do I deal with this mon? You know, it's like everywhere. But then like, you know, as you've been playing with it for almost a year at this point, you're like, okay, bro, like I switch in Miraidon, I will switch. I bring in Rillaboom, I would have, like, you have so many checks to them on, right? And I feel like what makes people really frustrated with this format, which in turn like frustrates me a little bit sometimes, is like stuff like Archrain, right? Like there are certain Pokemon that like you can't beat it, right? There are ways to beat it, but it's like it's sometimes hard in the beginning of the format to find like the intuitive checks, like, okay, this specific combination with this, and this Pokemon like works really well into that kind of archetype, and it's strong into the rest of the metagame. That's the kind of stuff that you see at Baltimore that then the meta builds off of, and then it's a little bit more clear going forward. We're right now in like the development period where like people are figuring out certain builds, people are trying out different ideas. I mean, even the Archrain team that won in Victory Road tournament, like the Grassroots one, it was using a King Gambit with no Swords Dance, which was not very common until that tournament. And it had low kick instead of Swords Dance, which is like a really different set. And it focused more on just dealing consistent damage output instead of focusing on setup. And like it had a Salamence, which like no one was really like, I mean, people knew Salamence existed, and Salamence was on like some sand teams at the time, but no one had really used it on rain. So it was definitely like a bit of an inversion on like what the common rain formula looked like it was kind of panning out to be, because typically you'd expect like Incin, Amoonguss, maybe set up Steel type Gold, you know, what's it called? Arch, Basket Legion, and Pelipper. But now it's shifting away from that. Even second place team, Ugarte got second place with Dondozo. Standard like Talonflame, Goldango, Glamora, like Dondozo stuff. That's something you'll probably see around. I wouldn't even be surprised. I would bet if I had to bet money on anything, I would bet that specifically, because I know Chup is going to Baltimore, I would bet money that he is bringing Dondozo Talon something. I don't know what the rest of it will be, but I would bet my soul on
He's
that.
Got a palm on there. He's got a palm on there. He's
the Palmon from like REG. Yeah. The Palmon from REG. And then you have Fede and Marco's team, which I think is really interesting because Ursaluna as a Pokemon kind of fell off with like the Flame Orb stuff, right? It was super, super popular with Cresselia, then kind of like died down in terms of usage besides on Hard Trick Room. And that kind of balanced Instant Amoonguss build is really cool. So I think there's a lot of cool ideas still. I mean, there's obviously a lot more teams in that as well. I mean, there's so many good Pokemon like the Balance, King Gambit, Clefable stuff with Rillaboom. So there's a ton of different things. I think the format is wide open. I think there's a lot of different things you can come up with enough time.
I mean, you're talking about the Urshifu Rapid Strike, right? And talking about how like early on in the format, it kind of seemed like too strong. It was kind of centralizing or like oppressive. And then, these counters and people were able to play around it. Or is it more so that it was a splashable Pokemon on a variety of different team archetypes that just made it seem okay? Because if you're looking at like the world statistics, it was at 61% of the day 2 teams but it was paired with like every different restricted on every variety of team, right? So it wasn't as okay, it's just this Archaludon rain everywhere that maybe we're having an issue with Reg H. But when we look at actually Urshifu as its own Pokemon and look at just usage stat, it was almost double the next highest usage, which was Rillaboom at like 37%. So like, is it just because it was splashable so you could kind of have one and you're not forced to run a certain type of team, whereas Archaludon you do? Or like kind of whereas like the feelings of like Urshifu, okay, but that's Archaludon isn't. Because if we even look at like the grassroots, Archaludon's really strong, but it's nowhere near like this Urshifu level type of strong when you look at the usage.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's Urshifu level at all. That was just more so a comparison of like when a Pokemon
Like how
comes
it
into
feels?
format, it like feels really oppressive. Like I remember the first couple of weeks of like Reg
yeah.
H, like everyone's like, "Oh, Archaludon's like really like hard to beat. It's so obnoxious." And then like
I
people are
still
like,
think it's obnoxious, by the way.
it kind of
I
is,
still
but
don't like
it
it.
kind of is, but like,
Yeah.
but like the thing is like it's not like meta. Like okay, sorry, I shouldn't say meta defining because it kind of is, but like it's not like that. It's not splashable on every team. So
Yeah, not at all, not at all.
that's the thing.
It's a very centralizing piece. That's like that's like the thing about Archaludon, which I think is going to like pretty much like that's going to be like the biggest thing about it is it's very linear and it's like not like in Urshifu. Like Urshifu, you can go Scarf and you could go U-turn. You could be like a Scarf sweeper. It could be Mystic Weather sweeper with Tailwind. You know, like Urshifu and Sin, Rillaboom, that kind of stuff is like it was just like, you know, good. Like it was like you could put those through on pretty much anything and make a good team. But like Archaludon, like thing is for its focal strategy, which is getting off Electro Shot sweeps, you pretty much need to bring Pelipper, which kind of restricts your team building options because that means you're locking with 2 Pokemon that are committing to one single strategy. And then you ideally, you know, it's like don't get like, you know, maybe switched in on like a Tyranitar. It's like you basically like need to really commit to that one strategy. And if the opponent's ready for it, potentially pinning you with like a close combat plus something else to knock you out, like you would just lose. It's like I genuinely think that Archaludon, it's good. It's a monster. It's an absolute monster whenever it does what it needs to do. But I think that the Archaludon teams need to evolve to have a bit more of like a way to play it both in and out of rain. Like I did like the Amoonguss builds a lot because you could build those, you could like pollen puff up the Archaludon, let it take up damage and just be a body press bot and just pollen puff it back to full. That was like what I liked about it. It's like I think they're going to evolve like with time to make it more of a dynamic concept. And then people are going to figure out the way to beat the common Electro Shot spam.
I mean, you're talking about different ways for Archaludon. We talked a little bit, Joe, where you're bringing up results from that VR. Tiago Litzanzi, second place at LASC, brought Archaludon with no rain, no Electro Shot, Body Press, Snarl, Flash Cannon, Draco Meteor. So I'm kind of curious with that kind of in general, because from what I can see, actually, no, Don Garcia also with a no rain version of it. So
are you talking about the Power Herb one?
No. It's
this
AV.
one, the second one, Joan Garcia's is Power Herb.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Yeah.
And then Tiago's was
It was just a
drum
stamina.
roll.
It was
Yeah, stamina assault vest.
And they pop bomb their own arch, so they get +6 on body press, and then they can spam it into your whole team. Because I played versus Tiago in Swiss.
Oh, you did?
Wait,
how is this team to play up against? So for the whole team, for context, for those listening, Mouse Hold, Population Bomb, Faint, Follow Me stuff, Gastrodon with Yawn, Glamora, Focus Sash, typical Glamora stuff, Safety Goggles, King Gambit with Sword Stance, Volk, Life Orb, Quiver Dance, and then the Archaludon with the Assault Vest, Stamina, the Body Press set.
Wait, really quickly, what was that body press set? Was it a body press snarl? Did it have electro shot as well?
Body press, snarl,
Flash
Flash
Cannon,
Cannon, Draco.
Okay, no electro. Okay, just making sure. If you had electro shot, that would have been crazy. That would have been like, what the? Like, okay, sorry, I got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I mean, when I played versus Tiago, it was basically like, so he won game 1 off of the virtue of the Archaludon, just like I couldn't break it because I just disrespected it, and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot you could just kind of like pop bomb your own arch.
Right.
And then I win the second game, and then the game 3, I like perfectly called out what like Tiago was gonna do. I straight like Draco'd with like Specs Hydreigon into the arch. And then the Mouse Hold goes for pop bomb into my Hydreigon. I'm like, okay, I was like, I'm fine. Like I live this because I switched in Tauros. And then it crits once. I'm like, okay, well, as long as it doesn't crit like a second time, I'm good. And then on hit like 10, it crits again and I die. I'm like, oh man. And then I just like instantly lost on the spot. And I was like, man. But no, I think in general, like where the strength of that team is like typically with Archaludon, like the number one thing that like Rain is really good at, which I think is like why it's actually like really hard sometimes for people to beat Archaludon, is they kind of struggle to find ways to hit it without like activating stamina, right? And then make it harder to remove in the future. And the fact is, Archaludon's defense is so good that like you can pop bomb it, and like every time it's boosting its defense anyways on hit, right? So by the time you're doing like your 5th hit, like it's doing like 1 HP or something. So you don't really care. And like you get to like maxed out like body press, and then you can throw that into pretty much like almost anything in the format besides like Amoonguss or ghost types, you know? So it's a pretty, I think it's a pretty like solid concept. That's something I could definitely see like carrying over even into like other teams and like being a good concept to explore, because I think Mouse
like
and Arch
that.
kind of makes sense in that way. So
Oh wait, so do you think you would like not go with like Electroshot, like just like because okay, that's cool. You could go like Snarl Body, yeah, kind of like that exact same moveset. I was thinking you could go like Instant Amoonguss and just like drop like Pelipper all together, maybe like a Palafin kind of route, and just go like a Fire Water Grass balance, and just play that as like just like a Steel Dragon type, like not like the Electroshot like stuff it can do, just Snarl stuff down or like Body Press. That sounds kind of crazy. I'm not gonna lie.
yeah,
I like that. Yeah.
Redefining our Archaludon right before Baltimore, where we're probably going to see majority of the Electroshot Pelipper try and do damage type of sets.
I mean, statistically speaking, I'm looking at some of the stats here. Like Electroshot's 96% on Archaludon, so your odds of hitting a non-Electroshot Archaludon are pretty low, I'd say. Like almost every single one is going to have it, and then 89% are Assault Vest, and 6% are Power Herb. So I'm just looking in general stats, not just stats in VR, just in general. So realistically speaking, you're always going to hit an Arch with Electroshot unless you're like one of the rare like cases.
Right.
Unless you're playing Thiago Latanzi at LASC, then you know maybe you won't. So yeah.
Thiago's coming out to Baltimore to sweep you all with the stamina pop bomb like Archaludon. I'm sorry to break it to everyone, but
yeah,
it'll be curious for things like that. So I want to then talk about kind of like the grassroots, because when we look at the grassroots, especially too when it is like accomplished players that are playing like these different teams, like how much stock does that have going on forward? Because I know going into events, especially with the regional around the corner, people won't always play what they're going to use online because they're not wanting to spoil their team for the weekend, right? You want to have a little bit of surprise factor, make sure you're not going to be countered. But at the same time, when VR is offering up a cool $1,100 for first place, and you're trying to get actually genuine good best of 3 practice with the team, you're not going to bring a complete meme. So like, even as like players going into an event, like how much stock do you take into something like the VR challenges and being like, oh yeah, Marco did this, Tiago did this, Josu Ugarte did this, like.
I would always say if there's money involved, I would take it pretty seriously. Cause like, it's like if someone doesn't, bring their best team to that tournament, they're probably not going to win it. And like, it's the only people that win it. Like they're going to try really, really hard. Like, it's like, whenever money's being thrown, it makes everyone move. So it's like, I think that like, those are a very good representations to where we're kind of at. That being said, I do think there are a few like dark horses. Like there's like a few like things that like stick out inside the metagame. Maybe a few players that are playing stuff like that have not quite shown their like sauce yet. Like they haven't quite showed their hand. For example, Wolf. Like I noticed like he made like his whole like Reg A like this whole Reg A season was just him like building like constant like crazy team after crazy. It was like Reg A, B, C. It was like he just did that. Like, and it's just like like someone could do that, and they probably wouldn't play an online tournament. But all the teams that did well there looked like they were very well built, well constructed. Besides like a few outliers, like a Gotti's team. Like I talked with another Brazilian, and they told me that apparently Ugarte built that team in like 10 minutes. Like, but he just piloted the finals. It was the Dozo like Talonflame one. Like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's like, I was like, okay, yeah, that checks out. Like that's Dozo Talonflame.
Yeah.
The Ugarte diff right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was crazy, but yeah, I guess just to wrap up, like I think that like what we see online in online tournaments, a pretty fair assessment as to what people will probably be playing at Baltimore.
That's interesting because I actually feel like that's not the case. As someone who's played like spammed limitless tournaments before, like I mean like over and over again, like these like grassroots tournaments, or like I'll play a bunch of Victory Road tournaments. Like I mean I've played like a ton of online tournaments, and I remember going into some regionals, I'm like, what the hell am I playing?
Right.
Yeah, like I'm not
true.
even playing like normal teams. I'm playing like weirdo teams, and like
right.
The thing is it's because, so what limitless tournaments account for, right, and what Victory Road tournaments account for are the player base and the tournament who are actively practicing and trying to develop like popular concepts and teams, right? But on average, you're not going to play that kind of player in the first couple rounds of the tournament, or even potentially later in the day, right? You're going to play like, I don't know, like Jimmy guy, I don't know, I just came up with a random name, who like
Jimbo, yeah.
wanted to, like, he just wanted to go to like Baltimore regionals because it was close, and he like made a team that he thought was strong and like brought it, right? And like, I'm not saying, by the way, that makes them automatically like not good at the game, by the way, because there are some players that do that and they actually have like really good ideas, but it's like
True.
not anything you'd see online.
Yeah.
So you play versus it, and essentially what I think a regional does more than like online tournament, grassroots tournaments, anything, is that you kind of get to see a little bit more uncommon things in the beginning of the day, and it's like kind of a test of like, okay, so you've practiced versus all the common stuff that you'll probably see in day 2, but like, have
True.
you practiced versus like, or like, are you able to beat like the kind of like random things that you'll encounter day 1? Because I know,
Yeah, bro, or like
yeah,
like in
you
DD,
know.
like Ursaluna. I know exactly. You just pull like it's like you think you're good, and you're like, oh yeah, I can be like 95% of stuff, except if I pull like one in DD Arm Rogue player, and it's a random like round 1 guy. Like, okay, this is the test. This is like the actual test.
I mean,
like,
like
I know what
even
you mean. Yeah,
like even at Worlds, like I remember I prepped versus so many different teams, like every Pagos team, and I'm like, dude, my matchup in the Pagos is amazing. Like I have Urshifu and Iron Hands. Like how could I lose? And then I play this like Pagos guy in like round 5 of Worlds, and he has like Terapagos in DDF, which doesn't make sense really conceptually to me, but like it was there, and he would just like follow me, Meteor Beam, like spam a bunch of stuff, and he has Iron Hands and Fluttermane in the back versus like Miraidon stuff, and I'm
Hey,
like, oh my
yo.
god, I'm like, this is actually really bad for me. So like, it's just these random ideas that
Right.
like you could never encounter like organically until you're at the tournament. So like,
But
in my opinion,
that's also
like, it doesn't
in the
translate
early
over.
rounds, though. That's also in the early rounds. You know, it's like think about like the later rounds. You know, it's like you gotta expect some people are gonna be bringing that Ursaluna stuff, like Ursaluna
Yeah,
Pizza
oh yeah,
Balance,
yeah.
and someone's gonna sauce people with it. Like I know that for a fact. You know, it's like all it takes just one, like a Justin Burns type player. You know, someone just like goes in with just like crazy like game plans ahead of time and like plays like balance. You know, it's like that's like all it takes is one guy to show up like that. But, you know, it's like I do get what you mean. The early rounds, those are terrifying. Like genuinely,
Yeah.
that's like the round
Especially
one is
new
always like,
format.
yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness, you don't know what it's like. You might not have a Sun matchup, or you might not have a Rain. You know, okay, no one, everyone's gonna have an Archaludon like.
I would
Pelipper
hope people
matchup,
have
but-
a rain matchup going into Baltimore. If you do
Of
not have
course,
a rain
yeah.
matchup going to Baltimore, I hope that you're going to enjoy that aquarium across the way, because you're not going to last long in the tournament. That's for
Right.
sure.
But,
it's open till 9 p.m. on Friday and like open till
yo.
9
Only
p.m. on
6,
Saturday.
only 6
so,
on Saturday. So if you don't have a rain
Oh.
matchup and you owe 3, you have plenty of
True.
time to go.
yeah.
True. But yeah, I was gonna it's like for me, like round 1s at tournaments, like it always feels like it's like that, like can I win this today? It's like, you know, after round 1 I know if I can win the whole tournament. It's like, you know, it's like I'll play round 1, I'm like, oh, I'm playing so bad, you know, it's like, and then like I'll know like immediately if I'm like ready or not. You know, sometimes I'll even lose round 1. I'm like, okay, I could have won that. I can still win this. But, you know, other times I might win. I'm like, wow, I need to wake up because I'm playing so sloppy. I almost let the guy with like mouse hold, like, you know, like population bombs destroy me round 1. You know, it's like just like if you pull a random guy and like if you're not ready for it, like you're probably not gonna win the tournament anyways. You know, it's like you gotta be ready for everything.
Yeah. Also,
But yeah.
too, one thing worth noting is in Victory Road, a lot of participants are Japanese and European as well. So it does skew a little bit of like it maybe like it gives a bit more sign for like if you're looking at a lot of the Italian teams, like what the meta might look like in like one of the, you know, European regionals, right? But like if you really just look at like the US teams that performed well, like let's just say we isolate like every other result besides like the international ones, because US people are who you're going to play at the event, right? The top placing US player is Michael Nash, hard trick room in top 8, right? Then you have me with like King Gambit balance stuff, Karis using like Sneasler Dragapult stuff, which is like good right now. Santino using Dozo, and then you go down.
That's the
and then
Chuppa squad right there, by the way. 15th place. That's what. That's why I think Chuppa's gonna be playing.
And then you have what's it called? Like Wolf using Hisuian Typhlosion Blur. So I would assume he's definitely not bringing that to the regional. Like there's no
Yeah.
shot, but like that's something that people would pick up, right? You know, or like you have Andrew Block here with like Palmet, Blursa, Murkrow. Like these are all teams that I would expect to see in the US. To be honest with you, I would bet money that in the first like 5 rounds of the tournament, like I'm not playing like Clef Gambit balance. You know what I mean? Just because like I don't think the vast majority of US players will bring that. And I think it could come, right? I'm not saying like I would be like amazingly shocked if like I didn't play it like 2 or 3 rounds. And maybe who knows, maybe I'm wrong and I do end up playing it. But based on my past experiences, like that's never the case really. You're going to end up hitting like the weirder teams a lot of the tournament. Even in US tournaments like later rounds, usually people even have standard teams with like some weirder adjustments on there. So
Yo, I'm not gonna lie. If you look at the standings, Chris Hahn's team is kind of cooking. It's 23rd. It's Vivillon, Garchomp, King Gambit,
Vivian?
Vivian, yeah, whatever. Either way, Vivian. Like it has it's so good. It's like compoundized sleep powder. Hurricane goes crazy. That's nuts. I love that Pokemon. It's so good.
yeah.
That looks like an annoying team. I sent you both usage off of this as well if you don't already have it. But then like if you can't necessarily take full stock, I want to know then kind of thoughts going into Baltimore of what we're fully expecting. Because like obviously Archaludon Rain, that is like the new Calyrex Shadow Rider, the thing that everyone's been talking about and basing why they may or may not hate the format off of. But like other things as well, if we do think that this isn't entirely like reflective. I was
Okay,
like
I
usage,
think
I was
know-
surprised Primo was so high.
I think I know exactly what people are going to be playing from NA.
Okay.
It's going to be, okay, so if you look at the VR tournament, 8th place team, Michael Nash's team, it's Torkoal, Lilligant, Hatterene, Indeedee, Ursaluna, Armor. There's going to be so many of those. There's going to be so many of those. It's crazy. I know that for a fact. Like, that
Why?
is like...
Why do
that
people
team
bring
looks
this
so-
team?
It looks so like you just like click buttons, you know, like it looks simple. It's like you're like, okay, just get Trick Room, sweep them quickly. It's like, you know, a lot of people will do that. Like that's. I think
Joe,
that's
please
gonna
do
be
not cry out in anguish into your mic, or else I have to turn it down. And please, for all everyone's ears, lean back when you scream in anguish next time. Thank you.
My fault. Everyone
true. My
listening.
bad, OG.
Yeah, my bad.
But yeah, that. Also, I think that there's gonna be a lot of like instant Amoonguss, Goldango. Also, okay, Banded Pult next to Sneasler. Everyone's gonna be playing that. That thing is crazy. Like, I was farming ladder with like it's like you just be like, okay, there's like a crazy setup. By the way, you guys would never know this if you didn't watch the OHKO podcast. That's what it's called, right? The OHKO podcast. Whatever.
Yes,
you guys would not know
yes.
the secret sauce. The secret sauce right here is what you want to do. Okay, so look, you lead with Sneasler, and then you pair that up with Dragapult. You protect the Sneasler turn 1, Phantom Force, and then you click CC and Phantom Force into a slot, and they are gone, destroyed, GG, and they get wiped from the face of existence. So it's like, you know, I'm just saying, you know, it's like, but yeah, that's a good pin. You can do that. You can also just fake out Dragon Darts, Outrage, Terra Dragon, Outrage, crazy. I'm like Sneasler, Dragapult's biggest salesman. It's like I've been playing them so much.
Wait until this guy finds out about switching redirector and follow me.
Hey yo, I mean, all right, okay, they do that, bro. Just snipe it with like a Dragon Claw or I don't know, like.
Brady, you need to send me a Sneasler Dragapult team, please, because I stopped playing Reg H after I got like 4-0 swept by a Sneasler.
Mine is like very
horrendous.
balancy though. It's very balancy. Like do you want like just like click buttons?
That's
or do you
how
want
Joe
balance?
taught me how to play the
Okay,
game,
sick.
even
Okay,
if I'm
yeah,
bad.
all right, I got you.
Yeah,
I think,
please.
please.
So here's what I think. Okay. First off, I think Rillaboom is a better support Pokemon than Incineroar. I already made a tweet about this, but I'm gonna just say this, okay? Incineroar is kind of a fraud right now, okay? Like it's good, it's really good, right? But the problem
That's my man's,
is,
bro. You can't talk about him like that.
Hold on. Okay, all right. I just need to like quickly
Let him cook.
talk about this, okay?
All right.
So
cook.
Incineroar in a regional dex format, right, Brady? If you heard that in like 2020, you would be like, okay, bro, this thing's gonna be on like every team, right? I'm looking right now at like the top 8, and I only see two Incineroars? 2 Incineroars in top 8. Think about that. We've gone from days where Incineroar has been on like 6 out of 8, you know, like 7 out of 8, right? Even if you look at like the top 16, right? The next team's like, bro, they have Cerulege over like Incin on some of these teams. Like it's absurd. This
The
mod
fall from grace
is on Fraud Watch. And now, like, if you look at most of the teams, right? Let's say you look at like the top teams, right? And you look out for Rillaboom, right? Rillaboom was only on the top 2, right? Or like 2 of the 8 as well. But then you go down and you just see Rillaboom, all the way down. And it's because Rillaboom, as a mon, is a lot more splashable nowadays on these teams, on these balanced type teams.
That's fair.
And I think that we have gotten to the point where we should accept Incineroar as fair and balanced. That's End of my statement.
Okay, so I will have my two. So the number one thing which you said, which by the way I totally 100% agree on this, is that Rillaboom is way more splashable. It's like, yes, by all means, like Rillaboom, you can just kind of put on a team. It's Rillaboom. It's offensive. It's good, but the thing about Instant though is like what it does it really good. I'm not gonna lie. It's like, it slows down the pace of the game. It can slow down Trick Room, and it's like also keep in mind like Rillaboom's like his right hand guy is literally instant. It's like they're often gonna be paired up together. I think as the format will progress, we're gonna figure out. My personal 2 cents that it's an instant format. I think it is. But I could be wrong. Maybe you're right, but I just think that it's like he's. I think it's really hard to justify not running fake out parting shot intimidator.
Well,
But that's just me.
interesting.
Also, the new instant technology, by the way, on VGC Corner, I just posted this on Twitter. Basically,
Oh my God.
New Incineroar spread just dropped. 252 revamped. You just take those 8 HP EVs out of HP, put it into something else. 244 HP, 252 split F or defense. I'm telling you, it lives everything. VGC Corner on Twitter.
I already
Check
saw
it
you
out.
like vouching
So
this
good.
earlier when like
It lives
everyone was
everything.
fighting you on it, and you're like, I promise, no, it's
Like,
so
they
good. It's
don't.
so
Okay,
good.
and the thing is, they didn't want to try it. I said it's like, yo, try it out, see how it feels. They're like, no, I don't want to do that. I'm like, okay, bro, you can't talk and not try it. It's like just like you gotta at least try it, see how it feels. Like it's like ride the ride a little bit. It's like you gotta experience it. It's like I'm telling you, this instant smooth. He just switches in, fakes out, parting shots, comes back in. Yes, sir, another round, right up. He comes back in, fakes out again, parting shot. It's so smooth.
Is it good enough of a spread to get the instant off Fraud Watch?
I think so. Yeah. Someone's gonna.
I just
someone's
like
win
how this
instant.
guy's like, it's smooth. It's like you're on a ride as he's like literally just talking about an Incineroar switching into like an attack.
You gotta feel it.
It's like, you really got me feeling something here, man.
Dude,
like wow.
It's like, okay, you know that feeling where it's you have instant in the back and you just like have the freest, safest protect switch to instant of your life. You're like, oh man, I'm so good at this game. You just like switch it in. You're like, oh yeah, it's fake out Dragon Dance time. It's just like it's so simple. It's just like I love it. Like it's so bulky.
Yeah, I will say one thing I did want to touch on, speaking of Victory Road in particular, because I think it's a very like obviously like higher tier tournament that you'd look at before tournaments. I kind of wanted to touch a little bit on the conversion rates. King Gambit started in day one at 28% and went up to 35%. So it went into a third of the field basically for King Gambit, which is pretty high. Goldango went from 34 to 40% of the field, which is pretty crazy. I think Gold is really sleeper right now. I think it's like, or not sleeper, but like, you know what I mean? It's really good. Rillaboom had a bad conversion rate, but considering how many people were using it, that's not surprising because the same happened with Incineroar.
When it's a splashable Pokemon, I feel like that's
okay. That's what I was surprised with King Gambit specifically because it goes from being around like 1/4 of the field to then going up to being like 1/3 of the field, right?
Yeah,
which means
true.
the Pokemon definitely has like some redeeming capabilities. We go to Arch kind of decreased a little bit, but then you see the crazy number. This is the one that like kind of blew my mind when I saw this. Okay, so Amoonguss day one, 22.8% usage, jumps up to 38% usage in day two.
Wait, which one?
Amoonguss.
Amoonguss
is such a skill intensive mon. It's so good.
Like Amoonguss's conversion rate was nuts. It went from being just below 1/4 of the field to being above 1/3 of the field, which is actually kind of crazy because the thing is, Amoonguss, in my opinion, it works with Rain. It works with that like balance, Trick Room, Ursaluna stuff, right? It works on a lot of different compositions besides that, just in general as like a random support Pokemon. People use it as redirection on like even other concepts of teams. And it's kind of like just a really good splashable, good Pokemon. Like I actually think Amoonguss and Rillaboom are very comparable in the fact that they can be very splashable in certain compositions. And like Amoonguss has so much depth because it has Clear Smog for Dondozo, Pollen Puff to make stuff bulkier, Rage Powder obviously protecting your teammates, and then you have Spore, right? It's just so many good tools that it has access to.
Also, can someone explain to me why people are playing Terra's Psychic on Amoonguss right now? Like, I genuinely don't get that one.
I can't actually tell you that. So, they EV it, so you live the Terrifier Eruption from Charcoal Torkoal, and then run Calm on it, and also Terra Psychic. You completely wall out Gallade because they only have Sacred Sword and Expanding.
that's
Hatterene can
crazy.
only hit you with Gleam and Expanding Force, so you resist Expanding Force. And if you're calm, you don't care about Gleam, and you can sit in front of it. And then what's it called? Like Torkoal, you can take one hit and spore it.
Okay, that's actually kind of. So it's just for size spam.
Yeah, I think it's literally just like a kind of like, oh wait, I can't answer this team, so like I'm gonna just make like a good Pokemon answer,
Right.
you know what I mean?
right, yeah, I got you.
I'll just put him to sleep. You know?
It's like basic maths, like psychic type Amoonguss beats size. Like, yeah, I got you. It's cool.
Like the simple math sometimes. One Pokemon I wanted to talk about here, I like half mentioned it earlier, but I've heard a lot of people say like Primarina is just like not good, and like we're starved for haze
Fraud.
users out here, and then it's at 22% usage. So I just want to know, if are people lying to me? What's going on with this Primarina?
I think people are fiending for water types right now. They're looking for anything that has the water typing, and they're just looking to splash on it. For what it's worth, I do think Primarina is good on like Porygon 2 stuff. That's like the only way I think it's actually good, is if it's on like a Porygon 2 stuff. But also it's because of haze. They think they're like, okay, I can haze away stuff. Like, I don't know. It's like, it just feels like a really bad Tapu Fini, like a really, really bad one. I don't know. I don't think
Color
it's that
short
good.
Tapu Fini.
So, I mean, one
literally.
interesting to note is on the online ladder, right? Primarina sits around 8th in usage, 15%. And then as you filter out for higher elo, right? It starts like at the top, right? Primarina ends up dropping down to 10, and then like the top of ladder drops down to 14. So it's kind of a Pokemon that I think is the reason why a lot of people try and splash it on teams, or like why it's so popular, is because right now like a lot of dozo checks like aren't very like fleshed out in terms of like, okay, like I have this certain like combination of Pokemon I can use together to beat it naturally while also still having a matchup and everything else, right? Right now, in the beginning of formats, what people look for are very direct, like straightforward checks to certain things, right? So someone sees Haze and they're like, okay, boom, that's my dozo answer. I'm putting Haze on the team, right? And then they're like, okay, Primarina is a decent Pokemon. Like I get like Moonblast, Hyper Voice coverage is fine, right? I think as the format progresses and people start finding more natural checks besides some of the more, you know, like just straight up like, okay, haze it or like other stuff, right? It'll open up room for maybe another water type to perform well as well. That's kind of one of the reasons maybe people would have assumed Palafin would have done better, because it was like a haze mon that can like kind of wall out Dozo. But I think where Prima has that beat is it has better coverage, and where I think other water types might have Prima beat is just off of the virtue of fact that they're like maybe better water types. Like one Pokemon I think actually is really slept on right now is Gastrodon, because Gastrodon actually has a lot of good tools
Lou's
in the
pumping her
format.
fist in the air right now, hearing
Yeah,
this.
right. I mean, I think Gastrodon, like, it can wall out a lot of the rain Pokemon. It has Clear Smog for Dondozo. It has Yawn stuff, and it can run Safety Goggles to wall out Amoonguss, so it can just like kind of play around it. So I feel like there's a lot of like utility with Gastrodon that people maybe haven't explored yet, and like some other Pokemon that maybe can fill out that role of like water type. Although I don't know if Gastro is considered a true water type, because it's like, and it rarely ever runs a water type move, really. It's actually more of like an ice ground type move spammer, but yeah.
I mean, what about Paldean Tauros? Because we're talking about
yes.
instant fraud watch, but now we have a different intimidator that's actually viable again.
Yeah, that thing's good.
I mean, actually, I just realized I was talking about good water types, bro. Like Basculegion. I think regular Basculegion,
yeah, true.
even on a non like rain team, is still good, you know?
So then why are people using Primarine? We got all these water types out here.
I think it's
why are we using Primarine?
I think it's like the only good like special water attacker, actually. Now that I think about it, like I think that's the only reason why. Because like I can't really think of like a better special water attacker. Like even as I'm like scrolling through, like I'm not using my Lodic or Politoed right now, and like Pelipper is contingent on rain existing. No one's using Rotom Wash in this format because it's just like too low on HP and it dies to everything. So in my opinion, I'd probably say like, yeah, I think generally speaking, like Primarina is probably just the best water special attacker in the format. You can't really get much better, and its typing is unique to it. But that doesn't necessarily make it the best water type. Like, to be honest, I'd probably much rather have like a Paldean Tauros, or like have a Pelipper even on my team, or like something, Basculegion too, you know?
Yo, I legit think that Pelipper is like, you can go like Okay, you don't even need like Archaludon. Although I don't I think there has to be a good reason not run Archaludon if you're running Pelipper. But
It's kind of hard
it's like
not to.
Pelipper is just like you don't need like a rain abuser. Like it's like you don't need like 2 like water types. Like because Pelipper does, dude, it just does so much damage by itself. It's just like he just comes in,
So
he's like, hold
annoying.
on, Weather Ball. Like it's just like it does like a million damage, like Hurricane. Like I think Pelipper is just like he's kind of nuts just by himself. Like he's crazy. You don't need like a rain abuser unless like Archaludon. But yeah.
Pelipper, super annoying. But we like looking at like the Pokemon that are on this YouTube. Is there anything too that you're kind of just feeling's like been a little disrespected or like kind of heading into the event would see more of? I was kind of surprised. I guess maybe not because we go down to 20, so like 10%. But Pomage was kind of one that I thought maybe would be experimented with a little bit more. Maybe it just didn't have the right showing. There was just the one at 15. But I'm just kind of curious about that because I seem to remember it being kind of annoying in Reg A. Obviously, it's a very different regulation now, but I'm still even just looking in just what it can offer and the fact that you do have then a fake out user if you're not really caring about the Incin. Being able to have strong electric and fighting, I think, is good. And then obviously Revival Blessing, I think is, I don't know. I'm kind of intrigued if it's actually going to like really pop off in Baltimore.
I think
I
the
will
issue.
say, I think
Oh,
Volk.
go ahead, Brady.
I was gonna say Volk. I think Volk's gonna be everywhere. That's all I had to say.
Volk?
I like Volcarona, yeah.
I think that Palmet's good, but it's only really good with Dondozo comps and like maybe some Tailwind comps with Talon. So because of that, it's very limited in what it can do, and I think because of that, it's gonna end up being like a Pokemon you really only see in like a couple of compositions, which is why I don't think it'll ever break beyond like top 30 usage. Probably, I just don't see it being like a splashable enough Pokemon to work on everything. Like it's no Iron Hands, basically, is the way I'd describe it.
It's fair. Rip Iron Hands.
Oh, also, I think that Chomp Talon is kind of good. It's kind of underexplored. You probably go like Chomp
That's what I
Talon, like
want to
Gildango.
hear.
I think that's kind of solid.
Hey, like no Fluttermane around, right? So
I
Yeah,
think
there's that.
it's yeah. Oh, go ahead. Go.
And I was gonna say like I'm just gonna like just rapid fire like just like some things I think will be like really good. Yeah, like Chomp Talon
yes.
I think could be good. I think Ursulin and Blood Moon is kind of being slept on a little bit. Just like not even on just like a hard Trick Room team. It's like I feel like just teams that are designed around that, kind of like Wolf's team, where it has like both Trick Room and like the Eruption what's that thing's name? Typhlosion team, like that
The
team. It's
Hisuian
like
Typhlosion.
yeah, it's like you have like a second carry in the Ursulin. I think Ursulin is just like crazy good. Like Blood Moon. Also regular Ursulin is pretty good. I think like P2 balance stuff, but that's not really, that's people are playing that already. Volcarona is kind of going a bit under the radar, but not really. People are playing it. They know it's like good. It's a force to be kind of reckoned with. But it hasn't like become like one like the best yet. Also I think Como is crazy good. I saw Desu he had a team that was like it was Como Smeargle, and you go for like Clanging or Clangorous Soul, and then you'd like fake out a Smeargle, and you could like follow me /Spore and just like spam. It was so good. It was
Sinistcha
like
as well.
that was Sinistcha as well. That was Sinistcha was really cool
And
technology.
AV Clear
like,
Smog Torkoal as well.
yeah, it was nuts. It was a good team, really good. I think that has if that was like a day one team, like that has so much potential. It needs to be explored upon, and that's going to be really good. Tyranitar is going to come back, I think, as well. That's all the takes I got. Maybe Corviknight, but probably not.
If I had to make a prediction, so Hisuian Typhlosion did not make any big appearances in Top Cut.
Yeah, I want to know if you guys think that's the fraud or not.
I think it's a really good Pokemon. I think that Pokemon's actually insanely good.
Yeah, I think Hisuian Zoroark is better though. No, not actually. I just like its design better. I think it looks cooler.
I was gonna say, I feel like they're not even like the same thing.
Yeah, I know. But
no. Actually, I will say though, on both notes, Hisuian Typhlosion, in my opinion, is actually insanely good. I do think it's a really good Pokemon. I just think that people haven't found the right builds for it yet. And what I'll also say is that Hisuian Zoroark, on Brady's point, actually, I think it's probably the best it could be, because a lot of the size spam teams just kind of rely on, like, to be honest, like just some like cheesy stuff to win sometimes, and like Zoroark Kazooie is just like a perfect cheesemon in this format. Like it's just it's actually so just like next level cheesermon. Like it's actually like really good on the comps, because like the way you play into like a Gallade or an Armoroge is like so straightforward, because it's like you have to deal with those threats, right? You can't really just let them sit there, and then like you target into it thinking it's a Gallade or Armoroge, and then it just like helping hand like Terra Normal hyper voices you and you lose like 2 mons, you're like, oh, okay, awesome. Like, I guess I just like lose, you know? Like,
dude, like I'm trying to figure out how to like build like the perfect cheese set on that. Like if he got Encore, that would be crazy. Bro, can you imagine just like double protecting turn 1 and just clicking Encore and they're like, wait, what? Like you know, like a really slow. Oh,
yeah.
I'm very glad it doesn't get Encore because it'd be funny if I got to do it, but it would not be funny if anyone else did that to me. I would not enjoy that at all.
Yeah.
That's facts.
I mean, I think too, other things that I guess are worth bringing up. I mean, I would say that I think Grimmsnarl is a little bit of a slept-on Pokemon right now. There's actually like 2 weirder strategies I want to touch on. Screens Grimmsnarl, I think could actually be really good in this format. Early on in the meta, and ended up getting like pretty high up on ladder. It ended up getting, I believe, second on ladder.
That was me. Like... That was me. Oh wait, sorry.
No, not
that tournament. There was like a 400+ person tournament that I got finals now with it. Yeah, it's good.
And I'm talking on ladder, it was like I think a Volcarona Amoonguss like screens team with like Blood Moon Ursa with the Grimmsnarl, and the idea is you have the Blursa behind the screens, and then you can like Thunder Wave and like Terra Normal Blood Moon into things behind the screens of Reflect. You can sit in front of Annihilate really easily. Because even if they beat up, it doesn't really matter if they're in front of a Grimmsnarl and a Ursaluna, right? And also too, another concept I want to touch on, it might be a little more gimmicky than the other ones, but I think it's actually worth like being aware of, is like slacking Weezing. I've seen actually quite a few of those like kind of chilling around, and like it like slacking, you would be a little bit surprised. Like you kind of look at the Pokemon and you're like, this Pokemon's like so goofy, like why would anyone use this, you know? Or it's like terrible. And then like you click like Blood Moon into it and a Terra Ghost, and your Blood Moon like hits nothing because you forgot that neutralizing gas turns off like your like normal moves being able to hit the ghost type, and then they double edge you and just kill them on, and you're like, oh, I was like, okay, that's not great. So there's like some like if not good potential in best of 3, there's some really good cheese GC potential with that. That's all I'll say.
Oh no. I mean, the GC is right after Baltimore, so if anyone's looking for a team, maybe Weezing slacking cheese. I'm just throwing it out there. But talking about things that we're kind of expecting for Baltimore, something that we like to do on the podcast, me and Joe Brown will always do predictions going into a regional. So with y'all replacing him, we're going to do some predictions for Baltimore as well. So since it is the first regional, I did kind of keep the questions a little bit more like into tune with what we kind of think, and especially to looking at like the usage. So because we didn't really ask this last season when we knew that it was going to be, oh my goodness, it's Incineroar number 1. But the first one that I had for the predictions is I want to know day 1 what you think the number 1 usage Pokemon will be, and bonus points, roughly what percent?
Rillaboom, 35%.
Only?
I would say Goldango. Goldango 38.
I think.
Can I change my answer?
Yes.
Rillaboom, 37%.
Yo.
I mean, the Rillaboom I definitely think will be pretty high. If Rillaboom and Goldango were the number 1 and number 2 spot for the VR.
Oh, interesting. Oh yeah, they were. I just like I like kind of knew.
We get to watch, anyone who's listening on Spotify, you don't get to see this, but the YouTube viewers get to see the pupper leave the room. Goodbye, pupper. All right, Joe, you can keep going now. Sorry.
No, you're good. I think I'd probably say Rillaboom 37. Just because I think that I could see Incin like barely creeping Rillaboom out of like the percentage to like be like maybe like 38 or something, but I think it will be Rillaboom. I'd say 37%, and I'd say it's pretty comparable to the numbers it had in Victory Road. But I just think the terrain it offers, like how it works on that a couple balance compositions, and just off of the fact that NA in general are not like balance Ursaluna Trick Room players, like I would assume that Rillaboom will be higher than Incin and Goldango. So,
and then Brady, I mean, Goldango, I mean, you're already talking a lot about it, but you think too, when we're looking at this one, Maybe
Okay.
higher.
I don't see Goldango passing 38. Hold on, my dog totally just wanted to come back in. One sec.
Do you want to do your thoughts because you were like mid picking?
I am undecided. I feel like for day one it would have to be Rillaboom. I know that's kind of the boring answer. I think that I'm gonna put it. I was originally thinking that I wanted it higher, but I think I'm actually gonna put it at like a 33%, and even like 1/3 of the field is what I'm gonna say for Rillaboom. I just think it's just very splashable. They can put it on a variety of things, so I just think it'd be good. But it's not really as splashable for like the hard trick rooms or the size spams, and I do think a lot of those will be showing up to where it's not going to be maybe as high as it could have been in a different format.
We're talking day one, right? Just making sure.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Day one.
Okay, yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I do kind of think Rillaboom's gonna be like number one, but like also it's just like, but like that's so boring, you know. If I'm like, oh yeah, Rillaboom, it's like we need some variance in here, but like,
all right, so you gotta.
You're right.
Spoiler.
No one's allowed to repeat my answer. You guys gotta guess something else. Sorry.
What? All right, then I want to change the question to what we think day two.
Okay. All right. Now you're getting somewhere.
Okay.
Amoonguss highest.
Really?
That was my answer I wanted to be.
Oh, sorry. You got to come up with a new one. Amoonguss, and it's going to be 36%.
What about your King Gambit prediction?
Actually, I capped on Amoonguss. You can have it back. Because the thing is we're playing in NA. We're not playing in Europe. So automatically, Amoonguss stocks go down a little bit. So actually, if I had to guess for day two, it will still be Rillaboom. It's going to go down from 37 to about 32% is my guess.
I'm going to say Amoonguss because I just think it's funny. I also think, too, in a format when everyone's like, oh no, the big bad Dondozo, and looking for answers, to have an answer so consistently with Amoonguss. Also, it's good in Trick Room, which people are also scared of right now. So I think it kind of solves two problems with one. So I think that probably be like third place or so on day one. And I think it's going to go up and be at like probably like a 35% day two, and Rillaboom will go like, it'll still stay pretty high, but it'll be like a 30-ish%.
I got Goldango for 37.
You sound like you're on The Price is Right. I got Goldango for 37.
Oh, Goldango 37.
Goldango for 37.
That's crazy.
I mean, it is good. Like, I definitely think it'll be up there. I'm just curious how many people will be like on it for the first regulation. I think the fact that it's the first one either really heavily will play into it or really not, with other people being like so like on tune with other ideas right now.
Yeah, I mean, just so you know what we're betting on here. So in Victory Road, so I said that Rillaboom was going to be number one at like 33% or something. I capped. I think it's actually going to be 35.
You can't keep changing your answer when you're doing more research. You gotta do
That's
it live,
crazy.
and you just gotta pick one and go for it.
Okay, I'm 35 Rillaboom. 35 Rillaboom. Rillaboom for 35.
I got
on The Price
Goldango
is
for
Right,
37.
they only let you answer in a certain amount of time. You can't keep changing.
Okay.
So
my bad, podcast people, if you're like mad at me for this. But anyways, like if you're looking at like Victory Road, right? Like
Yeah.
number one was gold. So Brady's guess technically is the most like statistically true answer at the moment. Number two was actually Amoonguss. So Sierra is the most statistically true next. And then it's actually King Gambit and then Rillaboom.
oh,
And I love King Gambit. So
Yeah,
podcasters, can you forgive me one more time?
I'm not
I
gonna
picked my
lie,
boy
Sierra.
King
I totally
Gambit.
think we should give him that King Gambit clock. Cause it's
I-
like he's
I
used
think
King
I gotta
Gambit.
take King
He's
Gambit.
used King Gambit. That's his boy right there.
That's my
Sure.
boy. I gotta take King Gambit.
all right. You can have King Gambit. It's gonna be.
But that's it.
Rillaboom
That's
at the
my
top
final
spot
one.
After all
That's my
this.
final one.
Final
Podcast
one.
people,
Locking
I'm
it
sorry.
in. Locking it in.
Lock it in. You press
How
the
much you
buzzer.
got King Gambit for?
Oh, 100% at the winners table. What can I say?
What?
100%, first place.
What percentage?
Bro,
is it gonna
that's
be
gonna
day
percentage.
two?
What
was that? Like, what?
I'd say what's it called? It'll probably be like 32.
Okay, 32.
100%
I got you.
usage of King Gambit on day two. You guys heard
Oh,
it from
yep.
here. Joseph Ugarte
Yep.
here first.
Yep.
Yeah,
Oh my
King Gambit's the
goodness.
minimum requirement for day 2. If you don't have one, you
100% King
can't.
Gambit usage, especially by the winner of the tournament.
If you bring King Gambit to the tournament, they just auto qual you for day 2.
Yep.
They don't see one,
Yep,
they
yep,
just
yep.
like DQ on the spot.
Guys, can we add like some kind of like multiplier here? Like some kind of like, for example, like Joe got King Gambit in finals. I could be like, oh, a Goldingo gets crit on stream, or like a bingo card or something. That'd be so funny.
I'll say King Gambit ends the game with assurance in finals.
Oh, okay.
Oh my goodness. All right. Next question, a Pokemon that we haven't talked about. Don't think it'll be the highest usage, but it's definitely one that everyone's been talking about. Archaludon. How many do we think are going to be in day 2? Not
Like
percentage,
number?
the actual like number of Archaludons.
19.
19.
Well, how many people usually make day 2?
How many
Hey,
people
yo,
are registered again?
60,
Data
70.
decision made data driven decision makers. Silence. Like just pick a number.
Sure,
Don't think about it.
Okay, all right, okay. I'll say 18 Archaludon.
Oh man, I was thinking. All right, okay.
I'm going 14. I'm going to say everyone has an answer to it, and it's only the best of the best that make
You
their
know
way
what? I'm
through
going
it.
17. I'm locking that in. That's my final answer. Right
Lock
there.
it in.
Lock it in. 17. There we go.
Oh my. If it was Price is Right, wouldn't that technically be like the worst answer? Because then, like, if it is higher than any of us said, then Joe just automatically
Yeah,
wins.
but it's 17. That's the exact percent.
Yeah, that's
I know
the
it's gonna be
exact
17
number?
people.
Okay.
17
Yep.
people on the
Okay.
dot. It's a snipe.
Exactly 17.
I can't
Alright.
wait for Archaludon stats to get buffed when like
Dude,
one of
if
the
it-
random building groups just decided they wanted to use Archaludon and it's on every
100%
team.
Archaludon on day 2.
Bro, if it ends up being 19, like I would actually be so sad, Joe. I'm not gonna lie. 'Cause you snipe me from like the victory. You just like it just like that's crazy.
That's the first thing I'm counting, like, as soon as
Yeah.
day 2 comes out. Is how many Archaludon.
Oh,
All right.
man.
This next one, we don't normally ask questions about the actual stream itself, but I wanted to ask one because I thought it'd be funny. How many rain teams are going to be featured on stream for the weekend? And this one's fun too because you could technically do a rain mirror, but if the rain teams are all getting knocked out, then you're not going to see them, or if they're all just really boring.
Now, are these unique rain teams or are these like
Nope.
team?
If there is a Pelipper
Okay.
and something that can go off of the Pelipper, we'll consider it a rain team.
Let's just say like like someone goes on stream inside of day 2 Swiss round 12, and then inside of Top Cut they're also on stream. Would that be +2 or would that be only one time on stream for that one team?
How many times we see like going into a match a rain team? If it's
Got
the
it.
same
Okay, got
person,
it.
that's fine. But we're going into a match. Oh my gosh, it's rain. And then also if there is just like a Pokemon that is clicking Rain Dance, for a Pokemon to abuse the rain, that will also be considered a rain team.
There's a lot you got to think about this because if it's in finals, it's going to be on there at least 3 times. So you got to account for if you think it's going to make finals. It's like there's a lot you got to consider here.
As well too, like there's a bunch of, I'm sure, fun and unique stuff. It's the beginning of a format.
Yep.
So then there's also how many times do you want to showcase rain? So if it's all the same build of rain, it'll probably be showcased less. But if there's unique ways of running it, or it's
I'm gonna
just
low
doing
ball.
I don't
really
think people
well,
are that creative.
I'm gonna go 7. I'm gonna go 7.
You're saying 7 rain teams?
Yeah, rain teams on stream. It's going to be 7 rain teams that make the stream itself.
Are you
Seven's
predicting
kinda
like
crazy,
rain?
bro.
Are you predicting it to win?
I'm predicting to get top 4. Yeah.
Top 4.
If I thought I was gonna win,
multiple
I'd say
appearances.
8. But
Fair.
I decided to go a little bit lower because I think it could get knocked out. Because like Joe, think if it does make finals, it's 3 immediately right there. Not to mention like all like the Swiss rounds. It's like 1 through 14. So it's like what are the odds that as we get higher up, people are just
Wait,
playing rain?
14
it's
rounds
like,
of Swiss?
It could-
No,
it
it's
could
wait,
technically-
how many rounds are there? 12?
10. There's 10 rounds of Swiss
10?
now.
Wait, there's only 10. Bro, I
Well,
need to go to a regional. Oh my goodness, what?
No, 10 or 11. It's 11, I think.
Dude, because those 14 rounds, those were
I thought it was
crazy,
8
bro.
plus. I can't quite remember.
Those were
But anyways,
nuts.
point being, I would assume I think it's going to be on stream 6 times.
All
So
right.
wait. Okay, wait. So there's only 10 rounds. Is that including day 1, day 2, and then it just goes right into cut, or how does that work?
But it's not a top 8 cut. It's like a
Asymmetrical. Oh wait,
bottom-
it's asymmetrical cut. What am I doing saying 6? Oh my
Hey.
god. I forgot about that. Brady, your number is probably like a little bit more accurate though. I'm actually going to go to 8.
great.
I'm going to go to
All
8.
right. I'm gonna say 5. I don't think we're seeing it that much because like we stream both top 4s, but like it's only 2 top 8s. We don't show every top 8. Like it's depending on like if we do expect our rain team to get far, depending on the seeding, like it could also just not be seen until. So someone could do like the top 16, top 8 with a rain team and not be on stream either of those times until top 4.
Brady, you said 7, right?
Oh.
Yep.
Okay.
This is
So
good.
you have
Dude, you
8,
just sandwiched
7,
me
and
again,
5.
Joe. I cannot believe this.
Oh my goodness. All right. So now to talk about the big size Dondozo in the room. How many Dondozo teams do we think in top 8? It can either be a Dondozo Tatsu or just solo Dozo, though I think we are in the Dozo Tatsu era. But do we think Dondozo is making top 8 and how many?
1.
Yeah,
it's
one.
top
It's only
4,
one.
and it's Chupa Cross. Lock that answer in.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I would not go. Or it's some random guy that's like a student of Chupa Cross and like he's just using his team at like
Prodigy.
the tournament. Yeah,
The
the prodigy. Yeah,
Prodigy.
exactly. It's one or the other. It's just no in betweens.
All right, I'll say 2. I'll say one that's more like Chupadozo, and then one that's a little bit more of like kind of like the newish wave 222-ish kind of Dozo, where you have like the size spam, you have the Dozo stuff, like all of the annoying things mixed into one fun little Dondozo package. So, last question, and sorry to put this little rule on it, but I don't think it's fun when a participant is here. Prediction on the Baltimore champion, and no, we cannot vote for Joe.
Such a shame.
You can put an asterisk next to your answer and be like, I think it would be Joe. You also don't have to, though.
Okay, well, who's going first?
You go first, Joe. So you just
Oh man, I gotta
you
think about
name dropped.
mine. Oh man, shucks.
I'll go first. So just going off of just like a strictly a point-based system in the format that we're at, I am just going to pick Riley Fecture if he is in fact intending, because its power level of Pokemon are slower. He can click some accurate moves, and he won the first regional of the season last year. So I'm just going to say, you know what? Riley's just going to do the run back, start the season off, get the invite, not worry.
I'm gonna go for Wolf. I think he's going, right?
I would assume, like, I
I
haven't
think so.
heard
Yeah.
otherwise.
He is.
so-
Okay.
He is.
I think he could because he's really good at building. So it's like this is like a building based format at the moment, I think. So it's like, and I think he knows that. So it's like I think he's gonna come up with something kind of like out of the box that like people are gonna be swept in their feet by.
Okay. If I had to give, so I'll give 3 answers, but like only one of them counts.
Okay,
Only
yeah,
one of them
yeah,
counts.
only
one of
one
them counts.
counts.
Okay. If I was predicting the person that I genuinely think has probably the best chance to win, besides myself, of course, you know. No, I'm just, but I'd say Shiliang Tang. I think he is a strong builder.
good
It's
time.
early format. His builds are usually pretty innovative, and I think that it's early enough in the format where he could definitely like get people with his builds. My second would be on a personal note. I think Keen Campo could, do it or whatever. So that'd be cool too. And then obviously gotta believe in yourself. So that's my personal answer personally, but that's all right.
Also, I will say, by the way, this is my prediction. I think that there's one player you guys got to look out for. Big Mike. I'm talking Michael Spinetta McCarthy. He is coming back and he is going to make day 2. He's been putting in hours. I've seen him grinding. He's actually like, he was a senior player back in the day. Back whenever I was a wee little younger, like 10 years, 9 years ago, like whenever I was playing little kitty division senior, him and I had a lot of beef, by the way, But anyways, he was good back then. He was really good. And like then he just stopped playing. He got like Grandmaster of Valorant, and now he's on his VGC arc. Finally, he's going to make day 2. Like I want him in cut so bad. He's going to make day 2. I can tell you that right here, right now. But just look at the standings. I would bet money on that. I would, but I know we can't, so I'm not going to. But I would. I totally would.
The confidence here, the confidence. You know what? I respect it. We'll keep an eye out. If we see him in finals, we're just like, you heard it here, guys. You heard it here. Is all I'm saying. But great. There's a prediction.
Wolf was a really good pick, man. Oh man,
you should have let Brady pick before you.
It made a lot of sense, right? It made a lot of sense. He's really good at building. He's crazy. It's like,
but Shiliang's not bad either. I would feel fine taking Shiliang.
True.
Shiliang is a good guess. So I think all good guesses across the board. But speaking of Valorant, I gotta go play some. And Joe, you got a pack for Baltimore, so we'll wrap this one up. But thank you guys both so much for coming onto the podcast. For the viewers, apologies that it's late. This is what happens when Joe Brands puts the podcast in my hands because I've never been on time for anything in my life. So you get a late podcast, but you do get a good podcast because Joe and Brady have been absolutely awesome. Before I let you guys go, feel free to plug yourself, your socials. Brady, I know you were already doing the sell earlier. I can see it in your face right now.
VGC Corner on Twitter. I'm getting back into the YouTube game as well. I got a few videos already lined up. They're scheduled. They're going to be posted. So get ready for that. Look forward to that. VGC Corner.
I
I will say as well for because I know a lot of people listening to this hopping more into the game or trying to be a little bit more competitive. So Brady does post a lot of free resources about the game, just like Pokemon to look out for, spreads and stuff. So definitely something to be checking out for if you're trying to play a little bit more of the game, especially getting resources from good players. Pretty good. So
JoeUX9 on all socials. Pretty awesome. Yeah.
pretty awesome.
Yep.
That
Twitch,
guy's the
YouTube.
go. That guy's the go. You gotta
Yeah.
follow Joe. You gotta follow. He's the go. He's so good at this game. He's so good. I'm not even kidding.
Appreciate
you're
it,
actually
buddy.
crazy at the game. But
Yeah. Also,
Be good at the game.
x9academy.com. What can I say? You want to
Gotta
up
plug
your
it.
game? Just put that in your URL. Check it out.
Yep. Joe also has great YouTube content when he actually posts YouTube videos. So a little nudge in the direction on that one, because also a great resource.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just saying, I just want someone to listen to this and they're like, man, I would really watch a JoeUX9 video if you would upload them. And I want that to be the inspiration for you to post a little bit more. So there you go.
I appreciate it.
Or else they're all going over to Brady because Brady said he's going to do it. So
There you go.
this is your choice now. But nah, for real, thank you guys both so much. For anyone who is still listening to this point, thank you so much for tuning in. If you're traveling to Baltimore this weekend, safe travels. Best of luck at the tournament. Hope you don't face off against too many Archaludon Dondozas. Any of that thing you do not have a matchup for. We'll be back next week to talk about all of the results. But until then, have a great weekend. We'll see you then. And thank you for listening.
Bye-bye.